Okay, for lesson 2.6, we're talking about drawing scatter plots and best fitting lines. So your essential question is, how do I write an equation for a best fitting line? So first let's talk about just scatter plots. These three examples here are of different types of scatter plots. Now it's called a scatter plot because they're just random points and they're just kind of scattered all over the graph. They don't necessarily connect or make a line or any kind of shape. So they're just scattered everywhere. Now, the data pairs are given to you just like points, like x, y's. They can have a positive correlation where they tend to go uphill. They can have a negative correlation where they tend to go downhill. Or they can have approximately no correlation where you can't tell if they go uphill or downhill. Then there's something called the correlation coefficient, and this is a number represented by the variable r, and it ranges from -1 to +1, and that describes like how strong the correlation of a scatter plot is. So if it has a very strong positive correlation, such as this one up here, this one would be closer to an r value of 1. Okay, and if it's negative, then that would be having an R value of close to -1. That would show strong positive. This would show strong negative. If it has no correlation, the R value is going to be 0. Now it can be anywhere in this range of numbers. So let's say it had a positive correlation, but it was kind of weak. Maybe that would be around R equals 0.5 perhaps. Let's say if it had a weak negative, maybe it was R negative 0.5. So the closer it is to +1, the stronger the positive correlation. The closer R is to -1, the stronger the negative correlation. And if R is around 0, then there's approximately no correlation. So we're going to look at some examples of this. So here's kind of your chart. If it's close to -1, this is close to a line with a negative slope. 0 would not really be anything, and 1 would be close to a line of a positive slope. So it says tell whether the correlation coefficient for the data is closest to -1, -1/2, 0, +1/2, or +1. So we're just going to take a look at a few examples and see what you guys think. So in letter A, can you guys see any kind of correlation in there? I kind of see a negative trend here. It's not very strong because the points are pretty scattered, but it is tending to go downhill. So I would say that that one would have a weak negative correlation. So that would be a -0.5 because it is kind of going downward, but it's not really strong. So we're going to put it in between 0 and -1. Now B, I can't tell which direction it's going. So that one is going to have approximately no correlation. So R would equal 0. And then this one, this is a pretty strong, tight correlation right here, and it seems to be going upward. So that one would have a strong positive correlation, so the R value would be closer to 1. So that's pretty simple. Now, the best fitting line is a line that goes through the middle of the data points on a scatter plot, and it's as close to possible as many points as it can be. Now, when you draw your best fitting line, it's going to be an estimation. You don't have to start from 0. You can start anywhere on your graph, and you want to start on the y-axis and then move in whatever direction your points are going, and try to go through as many points as you can. So here are the steps for approximating the equation for a best fitting line. So real quick, before we do that, I just want to give you guys a quick example of maybe what a best fitting line looks like. So let's just draw some random data points here. Okay, here are my data points. Okay, I'm going to try to attempt to draw a line that goes through most of those data points. Okay, so I'm going to start right about here, and I'm going to try to go through as many points as I can. And I may not go through any points, but I just want to go through the middle of most of my points. So this line is representing the direction that my data is going. So this would be an approximation of a best fitting line. Okay, now if I want to approximate the equation for that line, these are the steps I would follow. First, I would draw my scatter plot. I would plot my points that I was given. I would sketch a line that appears to follow most closely the trend given by the data point. So that's what I did. I started kind of wherever the middle of these would be, and I'm trying to draw a line through these points. Okay, there should be about as many points above the line as below it, and if you look, you can kind of tell that that's kind of where this is going. Okay, I do have about 4 up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here, but that line almost goes through that point, so that's pretty good. Then it says choose 2 points on the line and estimate the coordinates of each point. So from here, I would go to my graph, and I'm going to pick 2 points that are on the line. So let's see if I can find this one. Looks like it's about on the line. If I look over here, I'm trying to find something that's really pretty close. There's another point that's on my line. So I would try to find exact points that fall on the line. So this would be like the point 1, 2. And this would be like the point, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to say that this is 5 because my lines are kind of off. 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's approximately the point 5, 5. Now you guys will be doing this on graph paper, so you should be able to tell exactly where your points fall. Okay, or you can use a ruler to make sure that these are more evenly spread out. So from there, you're going to use these points to write an equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. Now remember from what we've learned before, if I have 2 points, what information can I get from that? Well, there's only one thing I can find from 2 points. That is the slope. So the very first thing you have to do after you get the 2 points on your line is find the slope. So you're going to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to help you find the slope of these 2 points. Then you can use either slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, and write the equation, or you can use point-slope form, this one, and plug in one of these points and your slope to write the equation. So this was just kind of an example of how to do that. Let's do it for real this time. So we're actually going to do a real example. So it says alternative fueled vehicles. The table shows the number Y in thousands of our alternative fueled vehicles in use in the United States X years after 1997. So X is the number of years after 1997. Approximate the best fitting line for the data. So the first thing you have to do is kind of look at your scatter plot data. And I noticed that mine ranged from 280 to 548. So what I did was I counted by 50s. And so you guys will have to change the scales on your graph, and you need to indicate what that scale is on the side. Now mine's kind of hard to read because it's small, but it goes 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and so on, all the way up to 600. I left my x-axis counting by ones because that's what the points do. And then I'm going to plot my points. So I have 0 to 80, which would be approximately, right here, below 300. And then I have 1, 295, which goes up just a little, still under 300. 2, 322. 3, 395. 425, 5, 471, 6, 511, and 7, 548. So here are my points. Now if you look, they're pretty close to being in a line, but not just quite. So what I have to do is I have to approximate my best fitting line. And I might move this after I draw it. I want to go through as many points as I can. And I want the number of points on top to be about the same as on bottom. So I've got 2 on bottom. Probably need to adjust this a little bit. Okay, so 1, 2 on bottom, about 1, 2 on top. That's as good as it's probably going to get. Now you may need a ruler to help you draw your best fitting line. Okay, the next step is to choose 2 points on your line. These 2 points right here pretty much fell on my line, so I'm going to use those 2 points. Okay, that would be 3, 395, and 4, 425. Now, in order to write the equation of my best fitting line, I have to use these 2 points to find something. What am I going to find? Well, from 2 points, the only thing I know how to get is the slope. So I'm going to use my formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to get the slope. So I'm going to take 425 minus 395 over 4 minus 3, which is 1, and then this would give me 30. So that reduces just to 30. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my slope of 30, and I have to use that to somehow write an equation. Well, I like to do this using y equals mx plus b because that is easier for me. However, if you would like to use point slope form, the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, you can choose a point and plug it into either one of those equations. So I'm going to choose to use the first point, and I'm going to use y equals mx plus b because that is easier for me. And I'm going to plug in 395 for my y, and m is my slope, which would be 30, and then times x, which would be 3, plus b. So from here, I have to solve this for b, so I get 395 equals 90 plus b. Then I would subtract 90, so I would get 305 equals b. So from there, I would write my equation, y equals 30x plus 305, and that would be my equation of my best fitting line. Now, if I go back here, according to this, my y-intercept where I started my line should be at 305. Which would be about up here. So it's not dead on. So I may have either made a mistake somewhere up here, or it could just be that I chose points that weren't exactly on my line. It could be a number of things. There is a little bit of human error in this because I'm estimating where these points are, so it doesn't come out to be exact. What I'm going to be checking for is that you showed your work, you drew a best fitting line that looked appropriate, you chose 2 points that looked appropriate from the best fitting line, and you showed your work. We're going to learn how to do this with the graphing calculators that will make it more accurate. But until then, when you're doing this by hand, this is what I'm looking for mainly from you in order to get points. And you will be required to do this on the test, so make sure that if you're not understanding how to do this part that you come see me. Thank you.